Hello and welcome to my very first detachment review here on High Stakes 40k. Today's video is going to be a little bit different to my other tactic videos and tutorials, but don't worry, the next video is going to be all about how to deploy your army, and it will have the usual animations as well as a very cool intro. In today's video we're going to have a look at the brand new Ultramarine focused Space Marine Detachment Blade of Ultramar, because that is what we needed. Another Space Marine detachment for Ultramarines. We're going to compare it to the tried and true staple, the Gladius Task Force. We will draw some comparisons, see where it is the same, see where it is different, and also where it might be better and which kind of units you might want to take. Speaking of units, we will also have a quick look at the new Victrix Honor Guard and how they might fit into the Blade of Ultramar. My name is Damien Cooper, and without further ado, let's have a look at the new detachment. If you're already familiar with the old Gladius Task Force detachment, then spoiler alert, they are about 90% identical. There's only two ways where it differs. But if you're not familiar with any of those, then let's go through all the enhancements and stratagems. Let's start with our detachment rule. Mastered Doctrins. At the start of up to 3 of your command phases, you can select one of the combat doctrines listed below. Until the start of your next command phase, that combat doctrine is active and its effects apply to all Adeptus Astartes units from your army. You cannot select a combat doctrine you have already selected this battle unless a friendly Marneus Calgar model is on the battlefield. Notice how it said a Marneus Calgar model and not the Marneus Calgar model? Because apparently now we can choose between Marneus Calgar and Mom, can I get Marneus Calgar? No son, we have Marneus Calgar at home. So there's that. So this is already the very first and very significant difference to Gladius Task Force. Because in Gladius Task Force we can only have each doctrine once. But here, if Marneus Calgar is on the battlefield, then we can choose each doctrine as many times as we like, up to 3 times per game. And this could be pretty cool if you have some specialized builds, but let's talk about the doctrines first. The first doctrine is the Devastator doctrine. This unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it advanced. Then we have the Tactical doctrine. This unit is eligible to shoot and declare charge in a turn in which it fell back. And our last doctrine is the Assault doctrine. This unit is eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which it advanced. So here there is no difference to Gladius Task Force, and the doctrines are exactly the same, and they are the most toolboxy doctrines you can have. Whatever you need at a certain point, you can have it. Do you want your entire army to advance and charge, and afterwards, while they're still in combat, you want them to fall back and charge? Or maybe you just want to get a little bit more movement out of your shooting tanks, so you can just advance them and shoot them. Next up, let's talk about the enhancements. And spoiler alert, they are exactly the same as in Gladius Task Force, so if you're already familiar with them, then there is timestamps down below, so you can just skip ahead to the stratagems. Our first enhancement is the Armor of Antoninus. Adeptus Astartes model only. The bearer has a save characteristic of 2+, and the Feel No Pain 5+ ability, which we oftentimes see at the Gravis cap. Next up, we have the Oath of Macragge? I don't know how to pronounce these. Adeptus Astartes model only. Add 1 to the attacks and strength characteristics of the bearer's melee weapons. While the bearer is under the effects of the Assault doctrine, add 2 to the attacks and strength characteristics of the bearer's melee weapons instead. Next enhancement is Student of the Codex. Adeptus Astartes model only. At the start of your command phase, if the bearer is on the battlefield, it can use this enhancement. If it does, until the start of your next command phase, the Tactical doctrine is active for this unit, instead of any other combat doctrine you select to be active for your army, and even if there is no combat doctrine active for your army. This stratagem has actually slightly changed for the better, because the old Adept of the Codex stratagem in Gladius Task Force is Captain model only, whereas the new Student of the Codex stratagem is any Adeptus Astartes model. And as our last enhancement, we have Veteran of the Behemoth. Adeptus Astartes model only. While the bearer is leading a unit, ranged weapons equipped by models in that unit have the Sustained Hits 1 ability. In addition, while the bearer's unit is under the effects of the Devastator doctrine, you can reroll advance rolls made for that unit. As you can see, those are the exact same enhancement as we have in Gladius Task Force. The first two you see in a lot of lists, whereas the others not so much. Now let's move on to the stratagems. And here again, they are almost exactly the same as in Gladius Task Force, except for one. But this one could be quite significant. Our first stratagem is Armor of Contempt, and I don't think I have to read it out loud. We all know what that is. If you're being shot at, -1 from the armor penetration. Moving on. The next stratagem for 1 CP is Tactical Foresight. When your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its target. Target: 1 Adeptus Astartes unit from your army that was selected as the target of 1 or more of the attacking unit's attack. Effect: until the end of the phase, each time an attack targets your unit, if the strength characteristic of that attack is greater than or equal to the toughness characteristic of that unit, subtract 1 from the rune roll. So this is a new one, and we didn't have this before. And this is basically a -1 to wound stratagem, and it works on any of your units. So also your tanks. And since we're looking at most Ultramarine lists, we often run Khulgar with a Victrix Honor Guard, and again we talk about this a little later. They already have -1 to wound. This is basically purely meant to go onto the tanks and maybe Guilliman himself. And if you're playing a more gunline focused Ultramarine armies with multiple Vindicators as well as 1 to 3 Ballistic Dreadnoughts, this could be a very nasty stratagem. Because I don't know about you guys, but I already find it very annoying to pop a Ballistic Dreadnought or a Vindicator in cover, especially when they have Armor of Contempt and Smoke. And now on top of all of this, with the 2+ save and the toughness 10 or 11, we also have -1 to wound. So those will be very annoying to kill from now on. Next up we have Courage and Honor. When the fight phase. Target: 1 Adeptus Astartes unit from your army. Effect: until the end of the fight phase, melee weapons equipped by models in your unit have the Lance ability. If your unit is under the effects of the Assault Doctrine, until the end of the phase, improve the armor penetration characteristic of such weapons by 1 as well. Super solid stratagem, the same that we already had in Gladius Task Force, and it really helps to punch through these high toughness targets in combat. So whenever you're facing a big knight or a big tank or monster, then this unit really helps to get their attacks through. And if you're in the Assault Doctrine, you even get another point of armor penetration, which should really just slice through any 2+ armor save. Next up, we have Ultramarine Adaptivity. When your command phase. Target: 1 Adeptus Astartes unit from your army. Effect: select the Devastator Doctrine, Tactical Doctrine, or Assault Doctrine. Until the start of your next command phase, that Combat Doctrine is active for your unit instead of any other Combat Doctrine that is active for your army, even if you have already selected that Combat Doctrine this battle. Again, a super powerful toolboxy stratagem that we have been seeing used in Gladius Task Force all the time. The ability to selectively put a unit in one of these doctrines to just get exactly what that unit needs at this moment is absolutely powerful, and I would sacrifice 100 Gretchen to get this in any of my orc detachments. Stratagem number 5. Exemplary Vigilance. When your shooting phase. Target: 1 Adeptus Astartes unit from your army that hasn't been selected to shoot this phase. Effect: until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit have the Ignores Cover ability. If your unit is under the effects of the Devastator Doctrine, until the end of the phase, improve the armor penetration characteristic of such weapons by 1 as well. What a nasty stratagem I have been on the receiving end of many times. If you combine this with the +1 to wound oath from Ultramarines and put it on a Vindicator, we now have AP4 Ignore Cover with +1 to wound, strength 14, which has the potential to one-tap everything in the game. Our last stratagem is Practical Tactics. When your opponent's movement phase just after an enemy unit ends a normal, advance, or fallback move. Target: 1 Adeptus Astartes infantry or Adeptus Astartes mounted unit from your army that is not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units and is within 9 inches of the enemy unit that ended that move. Effect: your unit can make a normal move of up to d6 inches or a normal move of up to d6 inches instead if it is under the effects of the tactical doctrine. And here another really powerful stratagem. Having a flat 6 reactive move if you're in the tactical doctrine on all of your infantry and mounted units can really mess with your opponents. So as we've already stated in the beginning, this is almost identical to Gladius Task Force with 2 major changes. Number 1, that if you have Maneos Kalga, which spoiler alert you will probably have in any of your Ultramarine lists, is the option to pick a certain doctrine multiple times per game. And this could be very powerful. Not only does it open yourself up for a more specialized Ultramarine list that isn't as combined arms or as toolboxy as you would usually go for, and you can just focus more on gunline armies and then use the Devastator doctrine multiple times per game and have all of your tanks just advance and shoot, and you can also use the exemplary Vigilance stratagem multiple times per game, which before you could also do, but you had to spend 2 CP on it. 1 to put your Vindicator in the Devastator doctrine and then another CP for Storm of Fire. Now you can just select the doctrine army-wide multiple times per game and just spend 1 CP for AP4 Ignore Cover. Another option would be to have a more melee focused list and then choose the Assault doctrine multiple times per game. One thing that was at least a little bit comforting when facing Ultramarines in the past was that once the Assault doctrine is over, you at least have an idea of how far your opponent's models can go, except for that one that they could put in the Assault doctrine. But now they could just pick the Assault doctrine again and have their entire army advance and charge for a second time. The second big change here is the -1 to wound stratagem, and I think this benefits more of a gunline army than it does a melee focused one. Because -1 to wound on a Ballistus or a Vindicator sounds like an absolute nightmare. Furthermore, a lot of our melee punch in Ultramarines comes from the Victrix Honor Guard, which already has a -1 to wound ability built in if they're being led by either a captain or a chaplain. Not to say this could be pretty cool if you're taking a Judicia unit with Blade Guard veterans, because with the 4-up invul and the reroll ones to save, and then also having a -1 to wound stratagem on top also makes them really hard to kill. But what are we losing here? When it comes to our detachment rule, we're not losing anything. It's just gotten plain better, because it is the exact same detachment rule as we had before, just with an asterisk that we can actually use our doctrines multiple times per game if we have Kulgar in our army. But when it comes to the stratagem, we do have a sacrifice. We're losing our automatic 2 CP fight on death, which if you have a more combined arms or even more melee focused list, this really hurts. Because an automatic fight on death is super strong for a melee army. Especially when facing another melee army, having the option to have them charge one of your really hard hitters and then being able to just annihilate whatever touches them in return for 2 CP is probably worth more than a -1 to wound stratagem. Which one of the 2 detachments will reign supreme will remain to be seen. I personally lean towards a more melee build that features Gladius Task Force, and if you're going more of the shooty tank route, I would probably take Blade of Ultramar. And speaking of hard-hitting melee units, let's quickly talk about the new Victrix Honor Guard. The new Victrix Honor Guard can now be taken as a standalone unit and isn't part of Maneos Kalgar's unit anymore. And the new Victrix Honor Guard packs a really impressive stat line. Here we're dealing with a 6-inch moving, toughness 4, 2-up save, 4 wound, 6+ leadership OC2 model unit. The fact that all of them have a 2-up save and 4 wounds makes them really tanky. So they're basically Terminators without an invulnerable save, but they move 6 inches instead of 5 inches. And since we're playing them in Blade of Ultramar, they will have advance and charge as an option for them at all times. I would definitely consider the new Victrix Honor Guard more of a melee unit, but their shooting actually is no slouch. Each model has a master-crafted bolt carbine with 24-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 2s with strength 4, AP1, 2 damage. If you put these into the right targets, like other marine bodies for example, this could be devastating. And like I already said in the beginning, the unit is more melee focused, and this is where they really shine. Each model has a master-crafted power weapon, with 5 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 5 at AP 2 damage. And spoiler alert, we do have a war gear option for a banner that gives us +1 strength on our melee attacks once per battle. And remember, in Blade of Ultramar, we have the stratagem for lance and extra AP. So this could be strength 6 at AP 3 for 2 damage with lance. So you're wounding a lot of targets on 4 at the very minimum, but most of them you'll probably wound on 3s or 2s. And remember, in Blade of Ultramar, we do have a stratagem for lance and extra AP when we're in the Assault Doctrine. So here we can go up to 5 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 6, AP 3, 2 damage, with +1 to wound. Or technically even +2 to wound if you factor in the +1 to wound oath ability. So here we're wounding basically all infantry on 2s, as well as everything big on a bare minimum of 4s. The Victrix Honor Guard come with 2 datasheet abilities. Number 1 I already spoiled in the beginning. If they're being led by either a captain or a chapter master, the unit gets -1 to wound. And that is in the shooting phase as well as in the melee phase, and there's no other rider on it, like your strength has to be higher than their toughness. So if you attack them with strength 3 weapons, granted there's very little of those in the game, you would be wounding them on 6s. But if you attack them with strength 4, for example, you'll be wounding them on 5s. And this could be a significant breakpoint. In Blade of Ultramar, you could even cancel out a +1 to wound ability like Lance, because they already have -1 to wound built in if they're being led by a captain or a chapter master, and then you can use the stratagem for -1 to wound, so it would cancel out the +1 to wound, and we would still be -1 to be wounded. This, in combination with Armor of Contempt on a 2+ safe model with 4 wounds each, will be very hard to get through. But this isn't all, because I also promised you a second datasheet ability. The second ability is Glory of Ultramar. In your opponent's shooting phase, each time an enemy unit has shot, if any models from this unit were destroyed as a result of those attacks, this unit can make a surge move. To do so, roll 1d6, models in this unit move a number of inches up to the result. But this unit must end that move as close as possible to the closest enemy unit. When doing so, those models can be moved within engagement range of that enemy unit. This unit cannot make a surge move while it is battle shocked or within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, and can only make 1 surge move per phase. So basically what this means is your opponent shoots you and then you move up to 6 inches towards one of their units. And you can get within engagement range. And this means one of 2 things. Number 1, they can't be shot at anymore, because they are now engaged with a unit and thus can't be targeted. Number 2, they will fight before the unit that they got into engagement range with, which is also very powerful. You might be thinking up to d6 is not really that much of a surge move, and you're right, except they do have the option of getting a reactive move. So what they could do is, once you line up all of your guns towards them and you have one of your units in the vicinity of them because you need to go onto objectives at some point, they might just reactive move towards you. Now if you shoot them, they just go within engagement range of that unit and you can't shoot them anymore. Of course, they could also reactive move away from you, stand behind a wall, and now you can't shoot them anymore because you can't see them anymore. And when it comes to points, we have 3 models for 130 points and 6 models for 210 points. And I think 210 points for 6 models is fairly on the cheap side. So here I really wouldn't be surprised if you would see multiple units in an Ultramarine list from now on. Maybe even up to 18 of them. One being led by Marneos Kalgar and the other 2 being led by captains and chapter masters. Whereas I think that probably everyone would choose the captain because he also has a command point reduction, so you could spam these -1 to wound and Armor of Contempt stratagems here. So again, really tough to beat unit. So let's think about this for a second. We now have a unit that has a 2-up save, 4 wounds, with access to Armor of Contempt as well as -1 to wound. They do have advance and charge, fallback and charge, advance and shoot, fallback and shoot, and a reactive move as well as a surge move when you shoot at them. That unit has everything. On top of this, they are very good in melee and they even have a decent gun to shoot at marine bodies. So this unit can do absolutely everything, and They're only 210 points for 6 models. So I think that's pretty crazy. So I'm pretty sure we will see them out in the field. It just has to be seen if we will see 3, 6 or up to 18 of them. But you can bet you will see a lot of them. So there you have it. This was my first detachment overview video. Let me know down in the comments below if you like that kind of content and if you want to see more of it. But don't worry, it will not replace the tactical videos. Those will be up each week as well. The next one will be about deployment. And I also started my first Patreon account, so if you want to support the channel, there is a chance for you to do so. Now, link is in the description below. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, then please give it a thumbs up, because it really helps the channel grow. Subscribe for more videos like this, as well as battle reports and tactic videos. And here on High Stakes 40K, we are all in on Warhammer.